It's 11:01 a.m. on November 5th, 2025. We call to order this meeting of the Bonner County Ambulance Service District Board. With that, would the Commissioner like to make a motion to adopt the order of agenda?
So, I was just going to say so moved.
I'll read it. Based on the information before us, I move to adopt the order of agenda as presented.
I'll second it.
You don't notice a granola bar yet, do you?
Do we have any public
God, help
comments on this agenda item? Seeing none. Board deliberation. About granola bars? Okay. Hearing none further. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes, motion passes. On to the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Any public comment on this agenda item? Do we have anyone online?
No.
Board deliberation?
None?
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes,
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
motion passes. That will move into turn it over to the ambulance, claims batch.
Can I pause? Oh, there it is.
This is claims batch number 2 totaling $16,669.28, with the largest invoice being the insurance payment in the consent agenda.
Does the board have any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Make a motion.
Based on the information before us, I move to approve the payment of the Acrisure insurance invoice in the amount of $9,267.
Second the motion.
So that was part of the consent agenda. I think we just want to have a motion for
What was
claims
that?
batch number 2.
All right, based on the information before us, I move to approve the payment of FY26 BCASD claims in batch number 2 totaling $16,669.28.
I'll second the motion.
We have any public comments on this agenda item? Or deliberation?
None.
Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Ford?
Yes.
Motion passes. Next, we have miscellaneous business. First item is our task list. Does anybody from the ambulance district have any updates to our task items?
The only thing I have is we're currently working on, I've got a phone call, I've got to talk to the bank this afternoon. He missed me yesterday, so we're trying to get back this afternoon to discuss getting the TAN ready to go. Again, we're not in a massive emergent situation like we were last year. And then I'm trying to think what else we've got going on. Pretty much the big thing.
Your cash is still 1 point something million, right?
1.38 as of the other day.
And so,
And so again, when we started last year, we were around $100,000. Or sorry, we didn't start last year. Last year at this time, we had around 100,000 in the account. So it's definitely a different landscape than we were last year. So we're again not in a huge hurry, but we need to get it done because I just want it in place for the January timeframe.
are you stating you're going to pull the TAN, or you're just having it, all the documents ready in case you need the TAN?
Yes. So if we're gonna go ahead and do all that, that's what my phone call is today. I wanna have this information ready for you guys guys at the next meeting to where I can answer that question appropriately. Like, how much is the tan gonna be? Because if it's not anything to, if we're already paying to do the paperwork and all of that footwork, and it's not that much more to go ahead and have the tan, then why not go ahead and have it? Or if it's gonna cost money, then we don't want necessarily that cost. We have everything together, and if we need it, we can submit it, but I'll figure all that out today. I mean, we've been down this road before, so.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
so can we ask, when you're talking to the bank, how long it takes to actually fund it? Because that's really going to be the kicker, because once you pull the money from the TAN, there is a fee associated with it. And where we were last season, you have actually significantly increased the available cash balance. It actually slightly is above what we had when we gave the tribal consistency funds. And so, because your cash was actually 100, then we gave you 2 drops of about 400 that only put you at about roughly 850,000. That's where we said pull the TAN. But you might make it based on your current billing to not have to pull it, but so you could potentially identify after your, maybe like your December pay roll drop, to see how much is left to determine if you actually need that TAN, so that you understand more, because you'll know how many, you'll have received a little bit more billing, and then you'll know how many payrolls you have to hit before the January drop. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I've got all that right here.
How many days does it take for them to actually fund it once you submit it?
No, I'm talking about what you're talking about, the money part between here and there. Because last year we did get, you're right, we did get 400,000 drop prior to the fiscal year, and then we got another $400,000 drop. But by this time last year, we were in that $500,000 range where we weren't gonna make like another payroll. I mean, we were down to the wire. So completely different this year. On the budget outlook, if you look at it, based on where we are now, by the time we hit January, we should be positive around 500,000, $500,000. Whereas last year, we would have probably made it, but again, we had way more employees, we had HSA that was front loaded, we had all these things that we had to come up with that we don't necessarily have this year.
You don't, but there's the request that we're reviewing of, as we come up on stop loss, if we're going to have a shift in insurance, that might have a change in the same month that we're talking about, that where your available cash will drop down. So you don't want to go too low in your available cash for billing that, bills that will be due also. So I'm just saying, we have to calculate when would it take for the bank to fund the
Yes.
account if you need that funded, and you'll have a better idea after your first December drop of pay to know, do we really need it? Because even, you can't just say we don't have an expenditure, the cash amount available can't fall too low in your account. So just make sure we're having that discussion with the bookkeeper on, even if you're not going to say, I got to spend this out, you can't have the cash drop down too low, and you'll have a better idea in December. But you want to know how long it will take to fund it, because we still have to make that decision as to what we want to do with the insurance, because of the stop loss ending in January, which gives us the opportunity to review that change. Does that make sense?
No, and this is stuff that keeps me up at night. This is stuff that I monitor
Yeah.
very frequently, and I've started sending
Yep.
the board each week, so that way, it won't be if suddenly you see it 500,000 down every week, you're like, oh, well, these guys are going in the tank. But again, it hasn't been that way. It's maybe dropped 40,000 a week versus huge drop. So
But it's significantly improved. The budget has significantly improved from the time when we had to do the TAN to now. And in part of that, it is increased communication with respect to available cash that was lacking before. And so I think that focus on that is important, and you guys have made those adjustments, so.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna have to agree on what's the lowest value we're comfortable as a safety factor to be held in the account to get through that gap period. And if I remember correctly, at the last meeting, there was a question about with the government shutdown delays in Medicare, Medicaid payments coming through. Do we have an update on
We do.
how much funds might be delayed for how long based on the current situation?
So yes, we did get an email this week. So basically, we are funded, excuse me, we recuperate at a super rural rate, which is 22% is what, higher than what they would pay like urban ambulance service. So we're at the 22%. They thought that they were gonna get rid of all of that, because it wasn't gonna get redone or whatever, but they were holding up all of our billing basically, but now they've said, nope. It looks like the government has given them the nod that they're gonna keep that going, so they're rebilling again at our normal super rural rate. So shouldn't see really any hiccups with our billing, but that was something that we were watching.
Okay.
I mean, you never know, but as of now, we're continuing to bill and.
So until they finalize the budget, we're not sure.
Yeah,
Well, in there, so what he's, I think you asked something and you answered something a little bit different. You were talking about the rate. Were you asking him about the shutdown impacting the funds coming in for services that were rendered for reimbursement related to Medicaid, Medicare?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand. I thought there was a potential time delay.
Yeah,
So are you saying that they're paying again?
no.
They've opened the floodgates and they're
Yeah, so you asked something, he answered something adjacent to what you said, but slightly different. So he was talking about the rate by which we will be reimbursed, and you're talking about a delay associated with a shutdown.
Timing perspective.
I understand that. I was answering that as well as telling you that they were looking at canceling the 22%.
Right.
Now they're not.
So you're saying we don't think they're going to, but they're
And
also
they're-
paying on a
Our bills are being
normal
paid,
pace.
There
There's
is-
there's no delay.
So it's not going to be a delay in income revenue so that we don't have to take that into the gap
And
consideration.
we are paid at the higher rate.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for clarifying.
You-
I knew what I was saying.
I know what you were saying, but he asked you something different than what you were saying.
I heard both answered, even though I didn't ask the second one, but I'm glad to get confirmation. Because then it means it should not impact the gap calculation.
Yes.
Okay. So do you want to move into the budget forecast update? Because we're pretty much talking about that now.
I was going to say. So based on, and the November beginning cash position should say, because I'm trying to do this the previous week, but it should be 138 instead of 133. I don't think that does a whole lot to our in cash position, but I'm saying at this point, if everything goes the way that it's predicted, then we should end up with over $500,000 in there. $500,000.
That's dependent on the projected revenues, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
Projected revenues and also your, obviously the projected payrolls and expenses. I have the payroll like, I have the payroll and expenses, operating expenses separated at.
So the good thing, though, if I look at those numbers, is that as long as the projected total expenses does not increase, even if the projected total revenues were to be less than anticipated within that time frame, we would still be cash positive.
Yes.
So with your projection, even though we'll be cash positive, what you can do is take the remaining amount of time and what is your anticipated for each kind of section and determine if by this date you don't receive a minimum of this, then you need to just pull the TAN. And so you can work with the bookkeeper to determine that based on what you're saying is necessary. 550,000 is a little bit low to have cash available in this kind of an account. And so I think that it's reasonable to actually say you're going to have to pull the TAN because that's a little bit too low in terms of your projections,
So my
because you're so
question
close to what you
is,
need.
550,000 is like right before we get, so it's not like 550,000 is trying to get us through the whole month. That's just
I understand that.
So my question would be like, because I've watched over the last year, I would feel comfortable with that, but if the board does not feel comfortable with that, then I'm not comfortable with that, and but I'm saying, if that's where we end the month with.
It's not about the ending of the month. It's that you will have payments that come to your account that you won't be able to anticipate what someone else's billing cycle is. And so having the drop in cash balance is what the problem was. And so this is where you will end in January, but you don't know at what point that end comes in. And then we're also making an assumption that everybody is going to pay their taxes up. Because remember, we thought we were going to get each time, I think in June, when we got the drop in June, we thought we were going to get less than what we actually received. But then sometimes in January, we received less than what we think and more in January. So we're not, or in June. So we're not certain of what that will be. But what you cannot anticipate is, in as much as we have projected revenues, you don't know what the projections will be in terms of people having delayed billing to you, or if there's an issue with people making their payments that owe us. Because we want, just because Medicaid, Medicare is saying there's not a delay now, doesn't mean that there won't be a hiccup. But you can't depend on that dollar amount. That one is pretty low for the end of January, because that means you potentially could be at $100,000, $200,000 in the month of January. You'll just end in January at a projected high based on billing coming in. But that's too low of a cash balance for the ambulance district. 200,000 is too low.
Are you saying, I want to make sure I'm understanding, so are you saying that we don't know, we can't predict what we're going to be outgoing, or we can't predict what's income?
Both.
Because we can predict outgoing.
No, you can predict, but you can't guarantee what that's going to be, so your balance is too low. That's what happened last time. And so when the treasurer looked at it and you were at the 100, she showed that at $500,000, she was telling the clerk it's too low for available cash with invoices that are outstanding. It's more that's the metric that they were using.
All I'm saying is, I don't know what happened last time, because that's a lifetime away. What I'm saying is we can predict what in other words, if we're paying bills, we can predict what those are. Does that make sense? I want to make sure
I understand that, but when will you have $550,000 in the month of January? What if you have $100,000 cash at the beginning of the month of January and you have bills that go out?
I see what you're saying. That's a problem.
That's
I'm saying,
so it's
if we're eating down to the 500, we're starting January. We're not starting January with 100,000. We're starting January with like 900,000, and then we eat down to the 500,000. That's what I'm saying. Because between now and then we go down. And
you have 1.4-ish in your account right now, and we're in November.
Mm-hmm.
So we're drawing down on our available cash balance now.
Very slowly, yes.
And so
So between now and then, we draw from 1.4 down
Right.
to 500.
And so what's the bottom in your mind that you can have in your account? What's the least amount that you think is safe to have in your account is the question.
500.
And so
Half of that.
I'll let your bookkeeper, because
No, so I'm just wanting, is this on? I'm just wanting to clarify, I think what you're asking is for us to remove what the expected income is and project our expected expenses and use that balance as if we weren't going to receive the money to make
Correct.
sure we aren't coming
Correct.
in any lower than the comfort number. So just remove our income. And so if anything, if you're projecting 500,000 above that, we should be higher if that income came in, but we shouldn't go lower. But that also gives you a buffer for those expenses as they go out,
So
correct?
Yep.
yes.
Okay, and then just to clarify, because I hear this 500, 550, not comfortable, can we decide what the comfort level is?
The problem is you don't know at what we can't guess it's not necessarily just the number, it's the time at which you hit where you drop to that number. So that's where I'm saying take the amount of time that's from here until now and look at your budget and pick a date by which you're saying, once my account is here, I need to ask for the TAN. Because it's not just the number, it's the date, because there's quite a bit of payroll time before now and then. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense?
I was just meaning, yes, if we pick any date, though, I was just curious, what is that comfort level? If we remove the income anticipated and we just look at expenses, if he was to say, I'm at, 700,000, whatever, is that now comfortable at any date? If we find that there's a date that drops lower, we can, identify that. I just want to understand what the number is that we're hoping to not drop below.
So for me, I don't want to pick an arbitrary number. What I'd like to see is, I'm assuming, so as you guys are doing your budget projections, right? You're looking at when do bills hit within the calendar cycle. And so if you have a 12-month projection and we can see what each of those 12 months looks like for income and expenses, we can see how the expenses move up and down through those months. In my opinion, then we can do like a 6-month look ahead and say at any given time within the invoicing cycles that you're going to have, how much minimum do we have to hold in reserve in case we have an income shortfall, but we know we have to make what's the worst month of bills we're going to have to pay in any given month throughout the cycle of the year. So that's why for me, I would like, if 6 months, however many months it ends up being, can predict the highest rate of expenditures that we have to be able to pay, then that will tell me what the minimum balance is we need to carry.
Okay.
Does that?
So you won't pay above what you're,
Yeah.
for that period.
Yeah, because from the expense side, I'm agreeing with Commissioner Williams that there's going to be ebbs and flows and uncertainty on the income side, but if we can predict the expense side and we know that there's going to be cycles of expenses that happen based on how contracts are written and things of that nature and just seasonal costs, then we can look at what's our worst month, what are our expenses for that month, and in my mind, then we can build what's our contingency, what's the smallest amount of cash on hand we want to carry in order to make sure that we can always make it through that type of a month while we're still waiting for income potentially. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get the payable side. Does that make sense to you?
It does. We'll have to work together on how to
Yeah,
find that because
how you
that's
would
data
figure
before
out-
me.
Yeah, well, and I know in my head,
Yeah.
like, which months are the heavy ones.
Yeah.
But you're saying, like, if that month costs this much, then we need to have this much in the account, and if it goes below that, we know that.
Right, because you could march along for 3-4 months and everything's fine.
Yeah.
And then have a big
month
month.
5 is when like you get 3 or
Everything.
4 large bills all at the same time that hit, and if we don't have enough cash balance to cover that, and or the income timing doesn't
Yep.
hit right, that's when the problem occurs. And so without predictive understanding of what expenditures look like, it's hard to know what the worst months are that we have to address.
Can you take just your 3 highest months of expenditures and then do a calculation that addresses what staff members you have based on if they were all to quit? What's the dollar amount that you have to cash out versus benefits, because that also should be included? And then take those 3 months, add in that, and say what that number would be, because your 3 highest months in holding that in is about reasonable for where our cash is now, and then addressing people that terminate require a payout of a benefit, and then come up with that number and pick your highest people that would potentially do that, and that should give you a good buffer of my highest 3 months. If 3 people quit essentially at your highest cash out rate, what that looks like, that should come up with a safety net number of a good available cash balance, because the goal of the district is you really need to have 6 months in arrears for your payroll and expenses in your account as an available cash balance, which comes out to about $2.4 million in reserve for the ambulance district. But until we get there, setting a metric that says, this year we need 3 months in arrears, plus what it costs to pay out. And then our next year, we should be saying 6 months we should have in arrears, because we're trying to build up the arrears. And so if you do a full-on plan, using your highest expenditure month would help come up with that number, but noting part of the way you're going to control that payout so that you can bank more of your arrear money is the staff members that can quit and take out large amounts. There has to be a drive from the ambulance district to encourage people to take that time off to avoid that payout that negatively impacts your budget all at once, Alan. Or lose it. That's a problem. The payout, it is him. He's one of the problems. No, that payout negatively impacts the
Yeah.
budget, so it requires you to hold more back because of that versus the slow bleed out of your budget for a benefit. And I think that would give you a little bit cleaner view with a goal of when you come back. Last year we had 3 months. This year we should be able to double it because we're doing a little bit more cost containment. But the huge part is the people that have that large PTO payout, that means you have to hold on to more cash to be able to cover that. That is I don't know how much that is with you, but like some of the other departments similar to yours, that PTO payout in the aggregate is actually quite large. And that might be something worth having as a review of a goal to start figuring out how to push people to take that time off more slowly so that you can bank more money in reserves.
I was just thinking the same thing.
They do.
On that note, I almost forgot.
But are we good on,
Yeah.
does that
Yes.
make it a
Yeah,
kind of
that's
a
clear,
cleaner view?
and we'll
Clear?
work together on that.
And then present the number that you come up with, and then that drop date of this is the number that we're looking at. So I'm going next week, one of the things we're hitting is the federal government payment of benefits to, and they're saying yes, but then there's some politics going on about Medicaid, Medicare. So I'll be able to give some feedback because I'm a little hesitant on saying there's not going to be a hiccup in billing of Medicaid, Medicare, because part of this is just a politic of, I need a group of people to be mad about something. So I'm not as confident on saying there's not going to be slow billing. When I was talking to some groups at the state, they were already taking out loans for their own checks. So I want to be extra cautious on depending on that revenue stream.
Well, I can say, as of now, they are paying it, so I don't know what the future, I can't predict the future.
But I think that's why, what the board has indicated, if we don't include projected revenue for the gap period, then it's a safer condition to be in. And then if we use data to drive what we think the minimum cash balance needs to be, then it's an informed decision instead of an arbitrary number. And I think we're going to be in a good position at that point to have a real number that's based on data that's reasonable for us to make assumptions with.
And you may very well come up with your number that suggests we should just do the 10 or we won't do the 10 based on what that data is. Because I kind of feel like when I look at what your history is, that your 3-month high plus that PTO might make it so that we have to do one more year of the 10 for the safety net of expenditures.
Understood.
Any additional budget information?
Yeah, I was gonna hit the task list, go back.
Okay.
If I could.
Sure.
Do we know when the expiration date is to apply for the 10? Is there an expiration date?
No, it's just what hurts more if we don't get it in time.
And you're going to find out today, hopefully, how long it takes to get the 10. So if we figure out towards the end of January that we need a 10, we can apply for that in February.
No.
No, we need it.
No, we
You
would
would
need
need
it
it
for the
before.
end of January. So we would need to have this done in December,
Okay.
basically.
So
I think the difference is from your question, there isn't a time frame. It's just when we pull the request for it at any time. You could do it at any time. But in terms of the way their district operates, if you needed a 10, it would be before January because they get a drop into their budget at the end of January, which makes the 10 unnecessary.
But we
So
don't
it's-
know what that drop's going to be, depending on who pays what taxes and stuff. That was kind of my point of saying, if we wait until we get that drop to see what that is, can we still apply for that 10?
Yeah,
After that drop's been made and we're looking at it going, whoa, this drop was not close to what we were expecting.
Yeah, you could
Okay.
do a 10. You could do multiple 10s. It's just you pay the interest on it if you don't need it, so.
If I understand correctly, we can get approved for a higher value, but only actually
Right.
pull a lesser amount and then pull more later within that cap if we wanted to.
Right.
Task list items.
Oh, yeah,
You
I was
want
gonna
to
say.
circle back?
That I am working on a EMS handbook, because we have a lot of things that are different than what, obviously, we're no longer county employees, we all got fired 10-1, so we're no longer county employees, we're now district employees, so we need a district handbook. So I am currently working on that when I'm done, it'll have to be brought to you guys, and for you guys, it will have to go through legal and get approval, but most of it is what's already been approved by our current legal team, so they're the ones that helped approve the original one, so it's a lot of stuff, but I just want to let the board know that I am currently working on that.
Based on your reassignment.
Based on what?
Based on the reassignment. I'm just going to correct the fired term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds a little harsh. Not that we're the Board of County Commissioners right now, but those poor guys, it sounds like you just threw them under the bus.
I mean, that's actually what happened,
The term was terminated.
terminated.
How many unemployment
Including
claims
me.
were filed then?
They were rehired.
Yeah, they were already rehired.
Did we do performance
Overnight.
review to rehire people? Because I think that maybe you're, yeah, because
Self-cleaning oven.
I want to see the exit reviews.
I want to see why some people were qualified to be rehired by the district. Because I think we could have cut some budget. If you feel like it's directed at you, I don't think that that's me, because I have not, I'm just looking that direction. She didn't feel that way. She's just sitting there saying, this is the longest 5-minute meeting I ever participated in. So my report back to you on insurance is you're still getting the quote. Right now, we've got, our insurance has agreed with an adjustment to base pay. We're not rolling that conversation out to staff, because if we do end up changing, the whole issue kind of gets reset with another group. But if we don't change, then the base pay, we have to identify how do we open the benefit back up to allow people to increase what they were calculated based as. Even though we did it in our system, they didn't actually get to go in and say, do I want to buy more based on that change in calculation of base pay? We did very clearly, I showed you that the change from Bonner County to a different form doesn't negatively impact the county, because we're less than a 15% change based on removing you. But there are some things that do change. One of them that I recommended that you talk to staff about was there will be no HSA with yours, which is different from what we have currently. And so that would be a change in January. Your review is that based on what your anticipated rate is, what you're currently paying now as the ambulance district for insurance could be inclusive on a different policy of paying for the benefit for staff. And my position to you as the district was, when people get insurance paid for, it's only the employee, and then all of the pluses are what the employee pays for. So only the employee side is something that you'll bring forward for the calculation to show the cost benefit, which I think it's something to consider in terms of advertising to attract more people, but also can bring some overall claim costs down. But so on my end, we've done everything necessary. I'm waiting on your end so that we can have the compare contrast before we bring for the board before January. But you have to kind of make that decision quickly, because changes in insurance, really I wanted to know that answer this week, and I know we've already asked them, but we need to know that answer because a change in insurance requires quite a bit of work, so that there's not a gap in coverage. So all of the things that the staff asked me at your last review, I have completed. It's just now in your guys', yeah, and then we can come back to it. The only kind of task that I'm still working on in terms of not only task, but one of them is that community paramedic grant. So that's one of the funding things for next week's conference, to address how do we try and get that grant to our county, because that was, before this problem, that was one of your goals of, is there an option to help reduce our overall cost as the ambulance district by having that? There is still money available with that, so I'll be meeting with Wendy about how do we apply for that to see if that would work for Bonner County, to have a specific community paramedic assigned, which would, I know that, I want to say the number was like $350,000 available, and it's still on the table for that option. So that will be what I work on next Friday, and then I'll give you feedback on that aspect. And then on the 21st, I'm finishing up the agenda, but part of the question is still, how do we get the state to address funding for ambulance districts without that obligation of trying to join fire and ambulance together, because that was not a direction that was deemed feasible for our ambulance district, nor desirable by the team. So I think I've checked off all of my comments from the staff on what you guys wanted me to work on, while we concurrently work on how do we build up that budget reserve. So that's my feedback on my stuff.
Anything else on task or budget?
Don't have anything else.
All right, we'll go to public comment. Seeing none.
I would say thank you for coming. It's helpful, especially as we make this transition, to be able to work on this. I'd like to ask you, how is it now that as we're making the changes, I know one of the things was there's a little bit of bumps with having to work with HR in a different way in terms of the claims that get billed, and then the clerk's office. Is there something the board can do to make that easier for you, or is it just we need to figure out kind of the change in insurance would help that problem, but if we don't have a change, do you have a request from the Board of Commissioners?
I don't have a request from you specifically. I think it's just been the difference in accounting systems and the lack of report, comparisons to be able to enter the data, get my book set up. That's why I said I don't have the history. And quick at glance, it takes a lot more reporting than I have to manually compile it together to come up with the information needed, which is just, government versus, regular business. And then as far as HR, that is just the hiccup, is that I'm still, I'm the payroll administrator, but I'm still at the, I'm still being told what to do, which is, what needs to happen at this point. But when errors are made, mistakes are made, back calculations were wrong, like things like that, I'm still getting updates, and now you have to do this, now you have to do this. It's gonna make me look like I'm making mistakes in payroll, but it's not. It's that I'm only being done and, doing what I was given for deduction amounts, for contribution amounts. And so when I'm then sending that on to the county and they compile it and they do their reviews, if it's a mistake, then I then have to adjust it on my end. So it's just that we are working together. It's just not normal. Normally I would be in control. I would know, I would be able to identify the mistake and correct it myself. And so at this point I'm being, given mistakes, and then I have to research it to validate it to see if I have any questions about it before implementing the corrections. That makes sense.
It does.
The benefits is kind of hard because our benefit is being run through the county, so we're paying the county, and then they're paying all the different entities. And so it's just a lot of back and forth and information that can get, misrepresented, and then we have to correct it.
And so for the board, because I had talked to Chief Lindsay about kind of this problem, and so from a board perspective, even if it's just exactly the same, that one of the benefits of them not sharing our same benefit system is it removes that paperwork processing issue. Because if it doesn't, one of the things that happens in different worlds of insurance, for example, is we would have to address the transmission of an error to her where it looks like it's her error. And so in some worlds in insurance, you end up with a setup that a person can be an adjuster of an insurance claim and actually by statute cannot be told what to do by someone that's lower than them. We would have to address the insurance problem that she's experiencing because HR cannot give her the information because they don't have the information. So they give what they can, and then when there's something that's wrong, then she gets told to correct it. And so she then inputs the incorrect information, and then there's not a way of tracking. And in part, there's need to ensure that there's no negative view that it's her error, because it's your work product and so we need to be mindful of that, but equally mindful of if you need us to do something as the board, or that you vocally say it so that we can help fix it before it becomes inundating to you, because we don't want it to be that. And we're still in kind of that state of transition. So whatever you need to make sure you say, I need help with this. And that's in part why we're pushing hard to see how do we segregate the part that we're not in control of, because what you need, we're not in control of because of the way it's currently set up. And so thank you for working with us on our dysfunctional system right now. But we're trying to fix that. And if we don't end up changing, we have to sit down and have a plan of how we're going to address this problem. We're just kind of pushing to see if we can make a change happen that's not negative. So, thank you.
Appreciate the feedback. Anything else from the board? All right. It's 11:43 a.m. and this meeting is adjourned.